All right, it is Tuesday, November 17th. This is our latest BlackProGen Google Plus Hangouts. There are four of us on here tonight from various states. I know where Miss Shelley is, I know where Miss Angela is, but I don't know where James is. So everyone will do quick introductions before we get started, starting with our new person on the block. Let's put the new kid on the block first.
Oh, man. I feel special. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is James Morgan III, and I'm coming to you from Brentwood, Maryland, in the suburbs of our nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
Yay.
But I'm a Jersey boy, born and raised, though. I always got to put that in there. I'm a Jersey boy through and through.
Okay. Where in New Jersey?
The Newark area, Essex County, 973.
Okay.
Shout out.
Okay. Yeah. See, I don't. Yeah. I just asked. I know a little bit about New Jersey. I've never been there, but eventually I'll get there. All right, Miss Shelley.
Virginia, Shelley Murphy.
Palmyra, Virginia, right?
Palmyra, Virginia. Central Virginia, yes.
Okay. And Miss Angela.
Angela Walton Raji from Baltimore, Maryland, but originally from both Arkansas and Oklahoma, right on the border. I was a border baby. What can I say?
Well, do I get to claim my Michigan heritage, born and raised?
Absolutely. Where
I'm a
in
northerner.
Michigan? Okay. Where in Michigan?
Grand Rapids, Rapids, Michigan.
Okay. I have a good friend who is from Romulus.
Oh, that's around Detroit.
Well, of course, I'm last but least. I'm here in Tennessee, right outside of Memphis, but I was born and raised in California. Lived in Southern and Northern California. I can tell you everything you want to know about California, if you want to know that. Just know that, people always talk about, oh, it's just so nice, but you pay for it, just like you pay for DC.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. My brother's out there.
I used to live in California.
You did?
I did.
I think
Merced.
Oh, boy.
In the San Joaquin Valley.
Did you know that they still have, or they have a UC campus out there now?
No.
Yes, UC Merced. In fact, unfortunately, there was a act of violence there. A few people were either stabbed or shot a few weeks ago.
On the campus?
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because when I lived there was I don't remember if the lady died, but an act of domestic violence. The husband, she was active duty. We were stationed there for the Air Force in Atwater, Merced, and he came on to base shooting and stabbing her. It was domestic violence. And Atwater, that's what's his name? Charles Manson's home. His mama lived in Atwater.
Yes. Well, this happened, let's see, the last update I got, or I'm looking at the news, is November 11th, so this was just like a week ago.
Wow. Yeah, I lived on the base there, and that base is closed. That was one of the ones they closed several years ago.
Absolutely. So before we get started, I'd like to open it up to the folks here. Is there anyone having a brick wall issue?
You're serious, right?
Oh, yeah. We only pick one.
Shelley is saying the same thing I'm thinking.
Of course we do. You can't do genealogy and not have a challenge.
Well, okay, so then here's my question, though. Why do you think people think that you just eclipse having brick walls, like they just go away? You never have to deal with them.
Well, can I answer that?
Sure.
The reason I think that people think that is because what happens is if you've been doing genealogy with any consistency for a long time, then what happens is what you end up doing is you tell people your amazing stories of how you discovered this great thing, but they don't see the struggle, they don't see the hours in the library or talking on the phone or trying to dig up records. They don't see that. They don't. A lot of times people see the success and they don't see the struggle. But I always try to make sure I tell anybody. I post a lot about my family history and stuff. I talk about it all the time. I tell anybody, I didn't know any of this stuff growing up, and it took a very long time for me to actually get it down to a science. But it takes consistency. That's really the main thing it takes is consistency and dedication. And a little bit of luck, a little bit of prayer. A lot of bit of prayer some days.
A lot of crying too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you think, Michelle?
I don't know why people would have that thought. I agree with James because of the tactics we use, the research tools that we use. It helps to combat some of those walls that we run into. But I always got to determine if I've created the wall or if it's really a wall.
Mm.
And so, I work hard on the walls and come up with strategies, staying focused on what I'm after, and then I take a step back, don't touch it for a while, then go back on it. And usually some of them I can work out. Some I have to accept the fact that there might not be a record. It really might not be a record. And I'm going to have to make an assumption at that point. But I've documented my trail.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes so much time because I have a great-grandfather I can't find. And, I mean, that generation is not that far.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no person to be found yet. And so instead of moving county to county, I'm going state to state now. I've circled around everywhere the wife was at. So again, the consistency, not trying to solve it all in one night, making up stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
thinking I done found something because he's got a very common name. And I think it still comes back to the strategies and analyzing things to help combat some of those brick walls. And people cannot do genealogy without them unless you're the Ball family and you're tracking the slaves and there's 10,000 pieces of paper,
Mm-hmm.
to tell that
Yeah,
story.
absolutely.
We don't have that luxury,
Absolutely.
in the realms that we research. So it
Absolutely.
doesn't matter if it's my European or my African descent, ancestors.
I agree. And
Yeah.
I think if you've been in this for enough time, you realize that there are just those lines of your family that are not going to have a little shaky leaf,
Yes.
where all the databases aren't going to be made available online. They don't give you chocolates as you search them or wine. You
Right.
just you just end up having to kind of figure it out on your own. I think something's interesting for me is when I hit a brick wall and the lines that I'm really, really interested in, I always look at that as an opportunity for me to research other lines in my family to get further on those places that I'm really interested in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so, and at any time they put a new database out, of course, the first thing I'm doing is searching for those brick wall names.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Um,
But again, you want
he,
to make sure you got one. It's a real one, and it's not something that we're lacking in that strategy to get through it that's causing the wall.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, how many times you find something that you've had for a while, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like, wait a minute, when did I get this? 2003? What? You know, so
Absolutely.
and that's why I stick with my old-fashioned timelines.
That's absolutely correct. And the key thing too, I think, is what I like to do. Nika, I like what you do in terms of making sure that you take time to look at other branches. 'Cause I do the same thing. But another thing I try to do as well is make sure that I can try to have an idea in my mind at least of why can't I find the record, or at least have some kind of a theory as to what could have happened to it, or what may or may not. And the other thing too, sometimes I think that happens a lot of times. Sometimes you can come to genealogy with preconceived notions. So, like for instance, I had a good friend of mine today. As a matter of fact, he posted online in one of the groups. Some people may have seen it, where he said that he couldn't find any slavery records for his ancestors, and he wanted to find them, and he needed help. He wanted to know how people found slave masters. So I said, okay, I'll take some time out today and look at it for you. And I looked into his family. Turns out, I'm not going to find slave records because this lineage was actually free people. So I was like, whoa, and this was really a great thing for him. I said, well, look, how you spent the past month looking for slavery where there was no slavery. Your family was actually free before the Civil War. Congratulations. You know, but that's the key too. Team building. You gotta talk to people, talk to other people sometimes, because maybe they may know a strategy that you just hadn't thought of.
Absolutely. And I think so before we get started, what would you consider criteria for being an actual brick wall versus one you just kind of thought you had? You know what I mean? That wasn't a legitimate brick wall. Do you think that just because you couldn't find it online, that doesn't necessarily constitute a real brick wall? Does it mean, is it when you haven't done an exhaustive search, does that really mean, that it's not a brick wall? What would you define as the criteria?
Well,
go ahead.
I think conducting a reasonably exhausted research and you still don't have what you are looking for, I would probably call that a challenge/wall. But then again, until I know that I have tapped everything, I can't. I struggle calling stuff a wall.
Mm-hmm.
I like calling it a challenge because I find out about new records just about every day. I was doing some stuff in Connecticut, and a cousin up in Canada sent me a link, and I thought, where did this come from? I've never seen this, this Connecticut, whatever the document was. And so here I'm exhausted my search and thinking, okay, I'm not going to find a birth record. He goes and hands me a whole thing on her family.
Wow.
That was printed in some chronicle thing. Now I'm sitting here thinking, that's a common thing to look for newspapers, chronicles. Why didn't I find that? And what did he do that I didn't? That didn't come up, even though the information on it was information I already had, but it gave a little more on the family, but not specifically what I'm looking for. I was looking for a death record. But I would constitute a brick wall is when I can outline what I did, looking for records and information, and not have anything as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. For me, I'd say loosely, if I know that I've gone down to the little small podunk town that my ancestors once lived in, or if I know I spent money to hire somebody to do that, or I begged my cousin, Pookie and them to go to the library for me, and they actually went and did it, and they can't find them, then at that point, that's generally when I start saying, okay, I have an issue here, generally speaking. Beyond that, like I said, everything else I look at as a challenge for the most part. And then two, sometimes I also encourage people, because I had to do this for a long time with one of my ancestors, Reverend William Hightower. Sometimes you have to be grateful for what you have found, as well. True. Because I have a couple ancestors who I have photos of, and I can't find them on the census. I can't find their life story in some book, but I have a picture of them. That alone to me says something, sometimes, as well. So, and sometimes, like I said, sometimes you gotta, if for those who are spiritually inclined, sometimes you gotta leave it up to fate or God or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. That maybe one day, like for me, I have a relative on my grandmother's side, and I was on his Facebook the other day, and I'm just, we're chatting, whatever the case is, and his wife tagged him on something. Or tagged us on a picture or something, and I looked and I said, "Oh, that's your wife," and I didn't realize her maiden name, which she uses on social media, was another one of my family names. So come to find out, my grandmother's cousin has married my grandfather's cousin, and now, so sometimes it's just dumb luck. You just find stuff.
True. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's, being in those late night hours, grinding the midnight, burning the midnight oil, and getting that one aha, even if it's like, just a penny, you wanted $1, but it's just a penny. And then there's also those moments where people just find you, or situations just find you. And so, I think this discussion is really important, because I feel like, folks need to know and they need to realize that This is not all going to happen immediately. You know, you're not going to stick a little dinner in a microwave and turn the 3 minutes on and, you know, something pops out. That it takes time and it takes effort, and you're not going to learn everything overnight. Um, you know, so that's that. So let me go ahead and we'll get to the first query that we have. I'll go ahead and repost it so Miss Angela has it in chat. I'll read it for everyone else who's watching. Let's have everyone mute themselves. Somebody is really in watching Steve Harvey on Family Feud. I don't know who it is. Anywho, it must have been Miss Shelley. Okay, so here's the first one. This is about free people of color. And so the person, this is Sarah Cato, who we all know. She's always wanted to know how her Freeman ancestors became free. What she knows, exactly. We are all very familiar with this story. Me, Miss Shelley, and Miss Angela are, but maybe James can shed some new light on this for us. She wants, what she knows is that he is, her ancestors listed on the 1790 census as A.B.M. Freeman in Botoncourt County, Virginia. He's listed in the 1796 titleable rolls, living on Edward Mitchell's place. There's a close relationship with the Mitchell family, being Edward and Samuel Mitchell and family. The Mitchells came from Cecil County, Virginia, or sorry, Cecil County, Maryland. So when you're dealing with free people of color, how do you strategize? Exactly. Miss Shelley just asked a great question in chat. She says, why couldn't they just be free, born free? Which is absolutely, I've weighed that myself. But I think something that we need to also consider is when people automatically are, let's see, hold on just a second. We got somebody entering. That is Renata. All right. We're just seeing Wall for right now, but that's all right. She'll come on.
Oh, hey.
Hey, girl. How you doing?
Hey, I'll be right there.
All right, all right. So James kind of alluded to this earlier. He talked about the fact that he was looking for some information for a friend of his, and the friend wanted to know where his family was enslaved, and he discovered that they weren't enslaved at all. So what are ways that you track free people of color? You know, let's hear from everyone. You know, of course, looking at the census is one thing. The person who submitted the brick wall mentioned tithable lists, things like that. What are other ways that you can try to get information? You know, if you know anything about history or the law, you know that a child's mother had to have been born free or willed free in order for the child to have been free. So in this case, we have to kind of assume that this Freeman ancestor was born to a free mother, or this particular individual was willed free themselves. So making that assumption, what would you do to going further?
Well, I think that one of the things that you already mentioned earlier, the fact that someone could have been born free, obviously, maybe making clearly pointing to the status of the mother. But I think that something needs to just sort of be pointed out just ahead of time too. We make an assumption that slavery was a condition. Yes, it was a condition that affected a whole lot of folks. That everyone was enslaved, and I know from people of color in North Carolina, she has yet to find a slave in her line. But for many years, at least 18 out of her 25 plus years, she assumed that they were enslaved, and it actually stopped looking, you know, at 1860. Never looked at 1860 until just on a whim trip to the archives. She decided to go. This is before ancestry and digitization. But the fact is that also many people who were free people of color in the 13 original colonies in particular, and I am really sort of emphasizing not just New England, but also emphasizing Maryland, Virginia, and certainly North Carolina. Many were children of white women who had had children. These were indentured servants and who had had children with Negro men, and so they were also born free because their mother was not enslaved for life. And as a result, too, there's some other records that are there. I know Virginia has free Negro registers. I think, Shelley, you can probably talk about the free Negro registers. They were required by law to register themselves, so they would be known, I guess. And I don't know about other states. I know when people relocated later to Ohio, they had a lot of restrictions too. But I think that we sometimes come from that negative status of everybody being slaves. So even when we get to a point, we'll say, how did they become free? Well, maybe they were born free, and we need to open our mind and to sort of alter the paradigm, and sort of open our mind to that way of thinking as well. Next, I'm done.
Who else is going to chime in?
For me,
well, I made a. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. For me, one thing I always suggest is if you can't find your particular ancestor or that particular line necessarily, try to become an expert. And I think this person actually has a great start, because what I would be doing, I'd be stalking that Mitchell family first of all. So I want to know who are they, what even if they don't have a situation where it was maybe they were relatives or former slave owner relationship. I'd still be stalking them and trying to find out what was going on, what was the trend at that time in that town or in that county. Okay, try to learn more about the local history so that you can get an idea of, if you have an ancestor who's free at that time, what were free blacks doing in that area? What churches were they attending? What organizations were they members of? Whether it was a Free African Society, was there an immigrationist movement at that time in that area for free blacks to go to Liberia or Sierra Leone or whatever? As well as like here in D.C. And I think D.C. is kind of unique in that D.C. actually had its own special Emancipation Act, which a lot of people are not aware of, where you can actually go and check. And that's one thing I did earlier in the case that you talked about, was that I looked up my friend's surname, and lo and behold, I find a relative who was freed by the D.C. Emancipation Act, not by Emancipation Proclamation and all this other stuff that people are more familiar with around the country. So, like I said, just stalk the people that are on the same page as them. Who are the other people? Who are their neighbors? Who were their what churches were free blacks going to? Where are the cemeteries? Try to do it that way, and a lot of times you'll be surprised at what you'll find, because it goes back to that old saying: if you tell me who your friends are, tell me who you are.
Sure.
Miss
I think
Shelley?
he makes some good points, and I want to echo. I posted it in the chat a couple minutes ago. That relationship when Sarah Cato speaks about the close, they're living on the Edward Mitchell place. Number one, you don't just begin to live somewhere. Somebody put you there, or you were there because you were born there, or something. So I would check into the land ownership, where it came from, who got it, how they got it, that relationship with the Mitchell family. And yes, Virginia and Ohio and those places definitely had those registers. And again, it followed the mother during a certain period of time. And also the other thing is that relationship might be blood. It might be family. Why the Mitchells are so close? These people were free, and might have never been enslaved. The mother might not have been enslaved, just like you said, could have been a white woman. And I would backtrack into the law, and then go follow the money. Who's paying taxes? Because if they were somewhere, she's talking about living on a place. What were they doing? What was were they laborers, farmers? Did they own land? And again, know what the law was at the time, because she starts at 1790. Well, you got to back up into the mid and early and find out if that county, Botetourt, was another county prior to that, and start looking at those records. Even though Virginia might have had a whole bunch of crazy laws, they made them up every time somebody wanted something. they passed another law. And so another thing is that local history, and I think both of you alluded to that, also I think is a critical fact. Insert those other people in the family, not just the head of the family. Hey, True.
I had a late start, sorry.
It's all right.
You got all the celebrities on here tonight.
All celebrities.
I missed what was going on, and can you, where were we at in the convo?
So we're talking about Sarah Cato submitted a query about a free person of color that she can't track. You know, she wants to know how her ancestors became free. And I know based on who she is and how she operates, she's probably already checked wills, a deed records, things like that. She's trying to think of perhaps a non-traditional way, so to speak, to track freedom. And we're strategizing over how you would do that. And she mentions this Mitchell family who has a close relation or is living in the same area as her free ancestor. And so everyone's just giving their feedback as to what to do.
Okay.
Before she responds, I got a quick question. What is the intent of her finding out if they're free or not? Does she think that they were slaves?
I think
she's asking why they're free.
Well, she just wants to know how they became free.
Yeah, they were free pretty much throughout the 19th.
The whole time, if I remember right.
Yeah, you're correct.
That's correct. They were free throughout a good portion of the 19th century. I think the question was how did they become that way? But I think, again, as I said, the composition perhaps of the family, racial composition of the family. The mother could have been white. That would have been, freedom by birth. But there's another thing I would encourage people to tune into Bernice's show from last week. I believe it was the broadcast with Dr. Anitra, and I'm going to screw up her middle name, Shadow something Myers. She wrote the book on free women of color in Charleston, antebellum Charleston, and she really followed the law. And she pointed out how in Charleston they had these arbitrary laws where free people had to actually pay a tax on their own body. And just like Shelley said, they would just make up laws because they needed to make some laws up. But free whites did not have to pay a tax on their own body. Free blacks did, and she talked about the status of women in particular. And it was a fascinating discussion in terms of looking at 19th century laws. I don't know about Botetourt County, Virginia, in terms of what those laws were, but it would be very important, I think, to follow the local law and to see what was there on the books and what was required.
Absolutely. One thing I thought about too just now as I was reading that, I was kind of rereading the question over in my head again. I would argue that she might want to look at any record she can find on the Revolutionary War, concerning some of these individuals or some of these family names, because I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I mean, that was a big opportunity in the 1700s for a lot of African American men, particularly, to gain their freedom through service, or even running away. At that time, you had black loyalists. I mean, there are a couple of scenarios there that I can think of with regards to the American Revolution that might have led to one of her ancestors being freed, or maybe having already been born free, but possibly relocating to Cecil County, Maryland, or whatever. So that's something else to think about as well. When you say follow the law, sometimes you have to think about what war was going on around that time, or slightly before that. So that's something to think about also when you're, not only for this, but any time you're researching ancestors. War is a great way to move people and change their situation in life.
I don't know if this has already been said, but also she might want to check apprenticeship records and see if there's some particular connections, family connections in apprenticeship records, especially if it's the 1700s. I may have missed the time period that we're talking about. I know in both cases of my free people of color, there were apprenticeship records that I'm trying to follow right now to find out if there were particular familial connections or otherwise between them and the people who apprenticed them.
Renata, are those records on the county level? Where do you locate those apprenticeship records?
The ones I've found are on the county levels in Carroll County, North Carolina for one set, and in Franklin County, North Carolina for another set.
So that's a sort of a courthouse visit or a courthouse thing, because I doubt if they're digitized necessarily.
Actually, in both cases, they've been digitized, and they're on the North Carolina Gen Web in both cases.
Fantastic. Oh, okay. That's good. That's interesting. How about early newspapers from late 1700s or early 1800s? I don't look at papers that far back often enough. I don't know if they're useful or not. I don't know if anyone has had experience with that.
It's been hit or miss for me as far as people of color.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't know if that's a function of just which papers have been digitized yet, or if in general they just, weren't making it into the papers.
Interesting. But I think
for me, newspapers, I think my experience has been, it really depends on what city or state or county you're talking about. Virginia, at least in my experience, wasn't that easy to, I found some stuff, but really wasn't that easy. But that's my experience. She may have a different experience dealing with Maryland or somewhere else. That's just my experience.
I think she mentioned Virginia. Something I don't know if she's checked would be that wonderful Library of Virginia website.
LVA.
Yeah, which I just keep hoping and praying that somebody in my family is in there. But I'm stuck down south, so that wouldn't be anything for me. But maybe looking and searching for Mitchells, just any Mitchell in that county at that particular point in time, see if there's any possible thing there, maybe.
Is her
Is that the
ancestor
surname,
the
Mitchell?
Freeman Mitchell?
No, they're Freeman.
The last name is Freeman, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that Abraham?
Yep.
What is the name?
ABM. I think it's Abraham.
I think that's Abraham or Abram.
Yeah.
Abraham. Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. Yeah, but it's a pickle. But you can, like I said, time, patience, and perseverance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to our second one, which we've got quite a bit of information. I will repost the info in chat for Ellen, just so she's on the same page as all of us.
Hi, Ellen.
Ellen's joining us from California. Let's see.
Ellen.
So this second brick wall is person is looking for information on their grandfather. So this is somebody who is fairly, I guess, connected to an older person. So they've got various information they sent us from censuses going back chronologically to 1910 in various, really in one county, which is Effingham, Georgia. And they also forwarded a death certificate issued in Chatham County, Georgia, which is where Savannah, Georgia is. I pulled up a map of Georgia. Effingham and Chatham are neighboring counties. So she, it's not like she's like totally off base by having a death certificate in another county. And so her question is, she just wants to find more information on this particular grandfather. It looks like he was widowed twice. There's a wife. The man's name is Henry Mitchell. Is Mitchell just the last name for tonight?
Mitchell is the flavor of the month.
It's the flavor of the month. So yeah, so his name is Henry
Yeah, I
Mitchell.
was sitting there thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah, me too. Me
Mitchell,
too.
and I was looking in the Forgotten Patriot book. There isn't any Mitchells out of Virginia, but we got Freedmen, but nobody close relating to that. And then you throw back another Mitchell in here, so it is Henry Mitchell is who we're looking for,
Henry
correct?
Mitchell is who we're looking for in the second person. Yes, different state, not Virginia, not Maryland.
Henry Mitchell, and
Georgia.
you want to know
She
more
just
about
more about him. So his death.
We cannot find anything. And I know her fairly well, and she's an excellent researcher. She helps other people, helps them solve problems. Her Mitchells are a mystery. And I think that there was probably a name change or something going on. That's just my guess, because there's nothing before 1910 on that line. So, yeah, really crazy.
What town were they in Effingham County? Or is that Effingham is the county, right?
Yeah, Effingham is the county.
I think it was Springfield City, I think.
We probably need to pull it up. I'm just seeing militia districts at this point. I'll share my screen so you can see a copy of the death certificate.
Yeah.
I was just about to pull it up. That's great.
The tie cutter occupation kind of stands out to me too. So
I'm not seeing anything.
I thought it said Springfield City. Where did we put that?
It's on the 1940 census one. It's Springfield City.
If I can find out where that person was in 1910 and what town 1910, 1920, I'll check the Georgia Masonic records real quick.
The other thing I would consider is, and I posted it in chat, were they incarcerated or something as well prior to 1910? Does she get them in 1900 or nothing prior to 1910?
Nothing prior to 1910.
Nothing.
And when
And
was
she
he
said that
born?
she-
Estimated 1870?
It looks like around, because this
Something
this
around
death,
that time.
yeah, this death record
Okay.
appears to be in 1940.
I wouldn't be looking in Georgia.
No, I'd be looking in South Carolina.
Well,
And
not
I had
necessarily just South Carolina, but I would take the neighboring, wherever you got him from. Still doesn't mean that he would be next to Georgia, Alabama, but I would track that Mitchell name, which it might not even be Mitchell, but is there anything from any other of the children or family that denote any other area besides Georgia, and try looking there? Because I'm not figuring out.
We've asked her about this in classes, a genealogy class that we have, a monthly class, several times, and she will tell you, I have looked here, I have looked there, I have looked here. She'll just give you
Yeah,
a
but
whole
what is
litany.
she looking at? That I would qualify.
Thank you. Sorry.
What is she looking for?
Any evidence of this man prior to being enumerated in 1910?
I would check the hospital and the jails and the
Yeah,
labor
I think
camps.
check the penal things. I don't know about hospitals. I have to ask her about that.
Yeah.
Check the census and see if they got the insane, you know what I mean, down in the far right columns, the check box down there about what is it, insane, invalid, or something.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about with the disabilities. Right, I've seen it.
Yes.
Has she looked for John Henry?
I don't know.
And I would flip that name too and look for Mitchell Henry instead of Henry Mitchell.
Henry Mitchell. Right. I will
That's a
put
good point.
I'm gonna have her come back and watch this. I didn't get a chance to tell her we were gonna cover her thing. I told her next week.
Yeah. For me, I think I kind of mentioned it earlier. One thing I like to do is I always tell people, check the social organizations. Like I'm a lot of people know me for checking into like fraternal organizations, particularly Prince Hall, Masonic records. But I would check some of those, like what lodges, whether it was Masons or Elks or Knights of Pythias or whatever. A lot of people don't know how to do that, but I'm more than happy to help out with that if possible, because he's at the perfect age.
Absolutely.
That he truth be told, if he was a Mason, I might have some records of him, but I need to know what city he was actually in.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have a question.
I'm gonna send you my stuff too, James.
He found Granddaddy Ike, so that was a good thing.
He's about to get James Benjamin Sewell's. That's coming into his inbox.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes,
in
ma'am.
1910, it says he was widowed. Now, I know you said she's a researcher. Has she researched the marriage record and stuff between Henry? Okay, then
I've asked that question.
wherever the
So
Huh?
I said because I asked her that same question, and yeah.
Okay,
So
I want to ask this question. If she knows who she was married to, correct? And that person is widowed, that wife has died. I would track
right,
that wife's location and family versus
right.
looking for that one and keep flipping the names again. But by him being a widow in 1910, and then she can't find him anything on him prior to 1910,
Right.
I'd be checking that date of that wife being killed, not just dying, and finding out if something else was happening and look for those other records that might pertain to her that could link to him. And is there
Correct.
insurance or any of that kind of stuff?
That's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. So I
I
will.
also noticed there was an address.
Oh, that's tomorrow.
There was an actual street address, home address on the death certificate. So they
Mhm.
may be able to check some property records
Yeah.
and see if
Do a
there's
reverse
anything
search.
there.
That's good.
And
That's
did
good
it say
information.
Savannah? Because Savannah's a very
It,
old town, and I'm wondering if that funeral home is still around.
good question.
I know mine from my small town in Alabama's been there forever, and they're starting to realize the importance of their records. They keep them in another location, but and even Pool Funeral Home in Birmingham, they've been helpful, and they've been in Birmingham since, for I don't know how long. So I always take a chance and call those funeral homes just to see what they do have.
That's good. That's
So
good advice. That's good. I'm trying to send her a message to see if I can get her online as well. So I'll keep working on that. So
I was wondering
I
if
would
there's
use
anything
the
in
fan
railroad records.
principle.
Yeah. Oh, Ellen was getting ready to chime in. What were you gonna say, Ellen?
I'm sorry, I just thought there was something maybe tied to railroad, because the railroad's been
yes,
in the
that's
county a
what I
long
think.
time.
Yes. And I don't know that she's tried railroad
Okay.
because when I noticed that he was a tie cutter, usually that suggests that he was cutting ties for the railroad.
Right.
So, and that could open up everything for her because railroad records can be useful. And I just read something about it online today. Someone posted something on researching railroad workers. And so I hope that that's the case for her. So
I think his name is John Henry.
that's a good point, too, John Henry.
It could be John Mitchell Henry.
John.
But
Yeah.
another question also is in that 19, is that militia district? And
Yeah, that's
call
what
it
they call
militia district in Georgia. Got it. I see
it,
it.
voting
Okay,
district. But
I see a half brother. Is
yes,
the half brother coming from the mama who's gone, or is half brother coming from daddy? Because he's got a different last name. So
right. And
I would search into the Bivens as well, because I would look for Henry Bivens and
mhm.
versus Henry Mitchell again, or Mitchell Henry, but check for Henry Bivens. If that's his half brother, maybe his name, he changed it, going forward, and
Mhm.
identifies for that. So I don't know what's involved there with the Bivens,
I,
the half brother. And the fan principle always works.
Yeah.
I just got a lifeline from my friend down in Georgia, a good brother of mine. He said he would recommend that if she hasn't, to check the Savannah Tribune. He
Okay.
said it's often underutilized.
Is it
But
online?
let me ask him real quick. Shout out to Dave. Shout out to my friend Dave in
Hey,
Georgia.
Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Is it online? Let me ask him.
Going out again? No.
If it's not, I'm sure he can pull it up some kind of way because he's cool like that. When he responds, I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
Is he when was he military? has she checked anything possibly with military? You know, it doesn't have to be a war to get in the military.
Right. And of
But I
course,
said,
I know.
hey, Angela,
Pardon?
tell your husband I said hello.
Shelley said hello. Okay. Smile. He wants to know how you're doing.
I'm doing great. I'm coming to visit soon.
Oh,
Get
great.
my room ready.
We'll get the room ready. Sounds good.
Yeah, the
I'm gonna-
military might be something, and people will think, because if it's not a war, and again, I go prison, I go military. But he's born in
right.
1870. He could have been, you know, in a militia. He could have
True.
been, was he old enough to make World War One? Yes.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
I
He
would
could have been the
check,
only
and I'm
draft
sure she's
spot.
done that, but I would check
Yeah,
the
let
flip
me
of the
try and
name.
get
I
her
really,
on the phone too and try and drag her online right quick. I'll be right back.
okay.
I gotta get her
Yeah,
back.
I see here that it says Thomasville in 1900. So I'm gonna check into these Georgia proceedings. I don't think I have 1900, but I have 1890s. I'm gonna check to see if I can find a Masonic lodge in Thomasville. Maybe I'll find some
In
Mitchell.
Thomasville, Georgia?
Yeah, 'cause isn't that what it says in the chat?
That's right by Tallahassee.
Okay.
Tallahassee, Florida. Yeah, we went to Thomasville. They furniture when I lived in Tallahassee. But another question, and again, his children, and we had a list of his kids. None of them are named Henry. Wait, I don't have a kid. We have his siblings. And so, do we know who his parents are? But also his kids. Is there, let me see, in the census, there's a Henry Mitchell 45. That's him. So I would check these sons too,
Yeah, she's
as far
done a
as
lot
naming
in that
patterns.
regard. Right. I just couldn't get her because my batteries died on my phone. So, but I'm trying to get her shortly. Because I know all the things that you're saying.
Wait. James,
Oh.
James, I found something.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so I'm looking here in the proceedings for 1891 for Prince Hall Masons of Georgia. Again, shout out to Dave. There was a lodge in Thomasville, St. Peter's Lodge number 43, and they have a FC Mitchell as a member.
Interesting.
So that may be, maybe you can look up FC Mitchell. Maybe it could be a brother or a close relative or something like that. Maybe a first cousin.
That's interesting. Okay, I'll have to point that out to her. I can't even dial. My battery's so dead now. But I'll try to make sure that she's aware of that. That's Thomasville, Georgia. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I looked at that.
Okay, real quick, James. You said it was F as in Frank?
Yes, F as in Frank.
He has a brother named Frank Mitchell. Look at the Henry Mitchell siblings. So they still need to check that. And again, because there's a Frank, just in case. And his name might be Frank Mitchell.
It could be. Truly, in my experience with this kind of stuff, it probably is him. I'll check. Oh, I didn't realize I have some later ones. I have 1896 and 1897 too. I didn't realize how it is. So I'll pull these up real quick, and I'm more than happy to share that with her or Angela. If you want me to shoot it to you, I can get it to you.
Yes, absolutely. I'm trying to get her. I thought maybe she was buzzing me back, but not yet. Shoot something to me either on Facebook or whatever, and I'll get it to her. She's probably sitting around doing nothing and going to be frustrated that she missed this and
no problem.
That her case came up. But because I would be curious to even know what should she do to further pursue that, maybe to find out about Uncle Frank, because that's at least going to tell us something about the family, because she knows nothing before that. And so that's exciting, and so that could be really useful. So, wow, that's great. What kinds of information, if this is her family. Typically, for a person who researches Masonic records, what do the records contain? Do they have personal demographics, place of birth? What kind of data would one typically find, James?
Typically, for the average person, you're gonna find if they held an office position that year. If they held a office position
Oh,
that
there's
year.
Mom. Hi, Shelley's mom.
Oh, hey, Mother.
Yeah, typically you're gonna find that if they had an office position that year. And the thing I always tell people with that kind of stuff, and True is a perfect example of that because I did some work with her with that. Is you're gonna find, if not relatives, you're gonna find out who their friends were because they don't join. Like I'm a member. True as well. You don't join a place where you don't have friends.
That's right. That's what I say.
Or family.
Exactly.
Yeah, all my family was up in that lodge, and it's funny because Granddaddy Ike was the chaplain, and also he was there for a while, and that was right when he was a deacon at our family church that was built, and he went in with some of those deacons to purchase the land. So James filled in a really good gap. It added to my timeline. So now I'm in the process of, writing a formal letter to the main chapter in Birmingham to see if there's anything that they will allow me to have publicly that has, and I'm hoping that maybe that might be the only photo. What if there was actually a photo taken?
That's nice. That'd be nice.
Yeah, so it's I'll keep you posted, James.
I'm about to blow up James. He don't understand. He should have never friended me on Facebook.
Hit my inbox. I'll save you some time and heartache with that.
Okay, thanks.
Right now, online.
James, you might be able to help me out too, because I actually stopped by the lodge in Lewisburg, North Carolina, where
and I'm gonna send
my
you a link.
ancestors are on there. Can y'all hear me?
You said Lewisburg?
Oh,
Angela,
can you
mute
hear?
yourself.
Okay, I've got Mildred on the phone. What's the easiest way to send her a link so she can come and tell us everything that she's looked at? Send
her that link in the chat box with BlackProGen.
Oh,
that Nika
all right, I'll do
posted for me.
I'm going to send you a link, and if you can get on and talk to us. Okay, all right. She's coming on.
Going back to the Mitchell situation, I checked out the address that was on the death certificate, and it's right by Savannah State, which is a historically black college.
Yes, it is.
And it was in existence at the time of his death. So,
which means he could be living and counted on the census over there prior to, depending on his work, the time working there, he could be counted in their census prior to, 1900.
Good point.
So I would be looking for records, labor records and stuff. And Savannah State, when did let me find out the history of Savannah.
1890. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. You know exactly where I was going.
Yeah, because I like to Google the address. One of the things I like doing is if I can actually get an address, I like to see the street view if it's available.
Right, I do the same thing. Yes.
Now, was this Mitchell family enslaved? And is Mitchell family a new name or the old name?
Yes, no idea. That's the point. She's like, oh my God, I know nothing about them. But I'm going to hopefully, if she gets online and can join us, she can tell us, because I've gone through it many times with her. We've done it in one of our classes with her. Well, have you tried this? But maybe some of these other suggestions that have come out, she may not have tried. So,
because a lot of times we say, I've done everything, I've done this, I've looked this. Let me tell you what, and y'all hear me harping about that. So what? Harping about those timelines. We probably don't even have half of what we could do.
That's
unless you lay that thing out, because like the judge learned at Maggie,
yes,
he thought he had exhausted his stuff, and that class came up with 19 more things for him to go check. 19. Renata, I
Alabama
think you were in that
wasn't it
group.
different?
19, and some of
Yeah.
them were
Yeah,
common
there.
things that we tend to just overlook that others would have done automatically. But
Correct.
regardless of how experienced you are or not, them basics wins over every time. Stick to the basics. Follow
You're
that
right.
timeline. And I'm gonna go to my grave telling people that, because that's where I typically can solve something if I stay back with the basics. There ain't no happy magical stuff out here.
So you better preach. You better preach.
Yes, I'm
Ready.
preaching.
Come to Jesus moment now.
Yeah. Well, and again, and all of us look at this differently based on what we have done, actually. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Based on the records.
No,
So
you're
my
right.
last couple months has been purely on European records. So I'm seeing a whole bunch of stuff differently than when I'm searching on my African American side. And then trying to bring them together or something like, whatever I'm working on. And some things I just put aside and just have to wait. I want to hit something. So I have to stop and pick up another line or something, because you keep looking at the same stuff, you're never going to get anywhere. That's the wall we just created for ourselves. You keep staring at
Sure.
the same stuff and saying, I can't find this, I can't find this. You got to take a break and pick up another line, or just take a break, at least for 24 hours. So, did she get
Right.
in?
Are you booting up, or what's the?
And I still would check that prison stuff too.
You click the link that I sent you? Oh, and it didn't. You know what? I think. Let me copy it a different. I don't know. Do you have to install Google Hangouts? I'm not sure.
No, yes,
I don't.
You
yes.
do, if you've never done it before, you do have to do an
Oh, maybe
install.
that's it. Oh my gosh. Well, you're just gonna have to catch the tape then.
Wait, she could go to YouTube.
She can go watch
Oh,
on YouTube.
watch it on YouTube. Yes. Okay. Will the same link work for her on YouTube?
No,
She,
I'll have to send her another
she
link.
can listen, but she won't be able to
But she can.
comment back, though. She can't
Okay,
Can
hold
comment
on.
she
back.
type in YouTube?
Hold
She
on a minute. Let
she
me
can
ask.
watch there, but she won't be able to comment, and we
Okay.
won't be able to hear her. She'll just only be able to watch.
From
Sorry.
Let me ask you a question. Give me her phone number and let me see how
Okay.
much I got. I got 50%.
Mhm.
I can put her on FaceTime. Does she have an iPhone?
I don't know. Do you have an iPhone?
Look at Shelly with her high tech self.
We
Oh,
want
where's
her
my phone?
responses.
what is your
Yeah.
Creativity,
hold on.
creativity.
I'm going to type the phone number into Facebook to Shelly, and so Shelly's going to call you. And
On
Mhm.
FaceTime.
On FaceTime. This is hilarious. So we're using two
all this
technologies at the same
Now,
time.
is this not technical? You know, I was working on my grant for that STEM thing tonight,
You're
earlier.
working. Okay. You hear all this
Yes.
talking.
So
This is
so let's
It's my attack stuff now.
so let's
I had to pull out my
until we
big
can
book.
secure her. Oh, okay. So
You see me? I pulled out my big book.
Got to look up her number.
so it
She
looks
doesn't
like
call herself, so she's got to look it up.
it looks like Ellen got the death certificate of Rachel, his
Mhm.
wife.
Oh,
In which
Oh,
I
good.
figured she did die of childbirth because
for
she was young.
Mitchell's wife.
That's
1924.
okay.
Oh,
Mm.
which wife is this? Which wife is that, Ellen?
This is
Oh,
the
Lord,
second
he
wife.
got more than one wife.
Yeah, this is the
Yes,
second wife.
Yeah.
this is the second wife. Do you have her death certificate? What was the first name?
Rachel.
Rachel. Yeah, she
She's
does
right.
have Rachel's death
Oh, okay.
record.
All right.
But still, Rachel number. Oh, that's right. There were two Rachels in the family too. Rachel number 2. Right. Okay.
1924.
Mm-hmm.
1924. The one that died in 24. Okay. Okay. What? Give me your phone number and I'll type it in on Facebook for Shelly and an instant message so she can get you. Okay. You have your phone? Or else you can call me back. Oh, hold on. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you, Miss Angela, So
Okay,
we can,
fine.
we can, so we can keep it together until we can get her on the line. Okay, let me mute her, or maybe she muted herself. Okay. So I think we've been able to strategize pretty well for this Mitchell situation. I think looking at Rachel's death certificate, I'll go ahead and pop that up. It does have her parents' names on there, so that would be an additional surname to maybe look into to see if there is information that could be unearthed about Mr. Henry, who I believe is John Henry. Um, oh, and they used a pencil. Thank you for using a pencil on this. Yeah, 32 years old. She was born in South Carolina. I can't make out where her parents were born.
Does
Can you make? Can
info
you?
on Rachel's parents, and Shelly, I just sent you her phone number on Facebook. She has researched Rachel's family. She found one record on Anna, who I think Anna Wright, I believe, was the mother. Didn't get information, I don't think, on the father, but she has done some research. So anyway, I will hang up. Shelly's going to call you and get some FaceTime with you and do something. Something magical. Okay. All right. Bye.
Genealogy at its finest. I love it. I do.
All right. So until we can get her on the call, let's
Well,
see.
can I go back to my question for James about the
Yeah.
Masons? I was telling you that I stopped by the actual lodge, I guess is what it's called, in Lewisburg, North Carolina, where I have found my ancestors listed as members and officers. And I told my story, and they were very leery of me, I'd say. And I left them, I could tell that I couldn't push it. I was asking them if they had any old records or pictures or anything, and explaining that I only wanted it for family history. I've never seen, what my ancestors looked like, and blah, 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 blah. Left my address, name, phone number, everything. This was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and never heard back from them. So when you told True you'd save her some heartache, my antennas went up, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the privacy and how they react to people crying.
Well, I can't talk about the privacy. What I will say is this. I think that just my experience is that you have to kind of with that kind of stuff. You really got to talk to the right guy, who is in that state or what have you. Y'all hear me? 'Cause I'm getting a little feedback.
It's getting very jumbled.
Okay. Not sure if
Someone's got two windows open.
All right, but in any case,
Hold on. I'm gonna mute everybody but James.
What happened to my picture?
Okay.
Okay.
But the main thing is that it really takes kind of meeting that right person in that right area, who knows. North Carolina is actually, it's funny. I actually was contacted today about a project because they're trying to get their history together in North Carolina. But in terms of any information I can give you right now that can help you, the best thing to do, honestly, is to and I'm more than happy to work with you or anybody on this because I enjoy it. Is the Iowa Masonic Library has the largest collection of official proceedings. I can say I know they have it in America. It might be the world, but I know it's in America they have the best collection of proceedings, both Black, African American, as well as Caucasian records. But the main thing is I always tell people you have to know what you're looking for, who you're looking for, what time period, because you may or may not have that year. Like I'm actually looking for these Mitchells now in Georgia. Some years I have them, some years I don't. They just don't exist. So it really depends. But in terms of calling up your local lodge or Grand Lodge, typically speaking, except for a couple of exceptions, you're not going to find somebody who really know. Because a lot of times we get those kind of inquiries and people don't know. They like the person you were talking to probably didn't mean any harm. but probably didn't know and was probably embarrassed to tell you that. I hate to say it like that, but it's the truth.
They would
But
not have known if they had any on-site old records or pictures or anything, because that's basically all I was asking them when I went there.
on average, if it's not something that's recent, or like for instance, if it wasn't somebody like if your ancestor or your relative was a member, right?
Hmm.
In general, they may not
Yes.
know. Now, if it was somebody who was a little more prominent, somebody who maybe had been the head of the lodge at one time or did something really particularly memorable, then I'm not saying not as much your ancestor, but I'm saying if it was something
No,
100,
no.
150 years ago, it takes someone like I actually have been, at last year, I was actually the assistant grand historian for all of Washington, D.C. So I, if you came to me in my lodge, if I didn't know that person right then, I have a way of getting, I'll be like, okay, let me get back to you and actually follow up with you. But in general,
Okay.
what happens is, these organizations that the turnover generation to generation, if it's not somebody particularly important, and then they may have books that maybe they have one older brother or one young guy like myself who you didn't talk to that day, who has all the information you could have needed, but nobody asked him. So it's just
Okay.
a lot of variables. But I'm more than happy to work with you or anybody. I actually have a presentation that I do
I
on
have
that
a
topic.
question. What is the appropriate question to ask to get any catch-22? Oh, well, they had the information, but you didn't ask it, so they didn't give it to you. So what is an appropriate question? You are a genealogist, so you know
Mhm.
what we seek. We're not asking for papers and for the secret handshake. We're just
Right.
wanting to know something. So what would be an appropriate, maybe you should write a primer.
Great question.
What would be an appropriate question to ask that would not create, or have the antenna rising that, oh, this person's trying to get into our stuff.
Yeah,
As I said, we don't want the secret handshake. We
yeah.
just want to know something about our ancestors.
I would say the best questions is one, you want to talk to the grand historian of that particular jurisdiction or that state. Um, if they don't have one, you need to find out, or even if you can't reach that person, you want to find out where are the Grand Lodge library or the Grand Lodge archives. Even if you just call that state's the main office and say, hey, where are your archives kept? One trend that's happened, and I'm gonna give away a secret here. So listen up. At least for two states that I think have done an excellent job with this kind of stuff is where I'm at, Washington, D.C. And yes, I'm going to shout out my place first because I helped work on it, as well as Louisiana. One trend that's actually happened is that a lot of, at least African American Grand Lodges, Prince Hall Grand Lodges, I should say, um, are trying to work with a lot of the black colleges to house our archives in some of these places. So, like for instance, with D.C., if it's not we have a library in our building, we're blessed. But if it's not there, it's at our archives up at Howard University. And with Louisiana, they have their official archives at the Amistad Research Center at Tulane. Okay, so if you go there, the main thing I would say is you really want to look at proceedings. And I'm more than happy to work with anybody, because that's not secret. That's not, those are official proceedings. They used to publish them in newspapers. So that's what I looked up when we were talking about the Mitchells earlier. That's what I'm looking at now. Going through, you can read the histories of the organizations and what actually happened. But for a genealogist, you're really going to jump to the roster. You're going to jump to the death records. For this person's question about their grandfather, what have you. I'm mad because I don't have 1910. I was going to jump straight to death records and say who died that year in the lodges. So those are probably the best questions I think you want to ask. And then if you want to
And
get
so
deeper into that
what will
topic,
one likely find with access, as you said, going to look up the proceedings, which are generally published. So
Mhm.
once you ask for access, or how does one read the proceedings for the annual convention for 1910 or whatever year it may have been, because Grandpa was active, or is that an appropriate way to ask?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing too, and honestly, like you have even outside of the established um, officers, if you will, of the actual organization, you have people who are just like how I was before. I mean, I've always been active in the organization and still am, but um, I didn't always have the title of the historian of DC or what have you. I didn't always have that title. I was just the guy who enjoyed reading and learning, or what have you. So sometimes it takes kind of getting plugged in, like with True's situation, she and I have a good relationship, in part because she's also a member, but also because, we just have a good relationship. So with me, like when she contacts me, I say, oh, well, I know the Grand Historian of Alabama, and he's a good friend of mine. We talk every day. I have the records right here. Oh, yeah, here, no problem. And also because I have Alabama roots myself. With certain other states, like Louisiana, like when Nika inboxed me and she has a question about Louisiana, I said, oh, I know exactly who I can put you in touch with. But that's not the person I'm going to put her in touch with is not somebody who most people would know, because he's just a good friend of mine who I know will go down there and pull up exactly what she asked for. So, it really takes, and sometimes, and I will admit as well, my last point, some states are better than others. I'll be honest with you when it comes to, at least for Masonic. Now, there are other fraternal orders out there as well that I also recommend people check into that I'm not as well versed in, but like the Odd Fellows, the Elks, Knights of Pythias. But like in terms of Masonry, at least, there are some states are excellent. Like to me, DC, top notch. Texas, and I have to admit this, Texas has a great library and research center in Fort Worth at their building. Excellent. They actually have death certificate. They have a whole bunch of stuff. If you have Texas and you're looking for, just go and tell them I sent you. Louisiana has done a great job. South Carolina, a black hole. I'll be honest with you. I love South Carolina. I love y'all brothers, but South Carolina is a black hole. Like, ask me anything about them, and I'm gonna go what? So it really just another one. Georgia, probably again top notch.
Is that the one where you found her Mitchell on? Was that Mitchell? That was. I mean,
yeah.
That was Savannah. That was Georgia.
Yeah, that was Georgia, and I have several years of those because again, it takes now Georgia. They've been blessed that they've had several official historians that take it seriously, that record things. We share information in PDF and all this kind of stuff. So Dave, my friend I mentioned earlier, he's the Grand Historian of Georgia. So he's the kind of guy, if you call him and he's not doing anything, he'll say, oh, you're looking for your ancestors' cemetery, and he was in this lodge? Well, I'm not doing anything today. I'll jump in my truck. Like, everybody's not going to do that, but that's just how he is, So really, again, like I said, it just depends state by state.
Well, I know little to nothing about the Masons, but I will say that the way I found out that my ancestors were in this lodge was from an internet search, and it took me right to the proceedings that you're talking about. North Carolina has a whole site for it, so if it weren't for that, I would never have known they were even Masons in the first place. I didn't have a clue what I was doing when I stepped into the lodge that day. I was scared, but I appreciate everything, and I will email you, for some extra help. Lewisburg's a little teeny little town where everything is kind of closed mouthed, hard to get information out of anybody. But now that you're explaining that it's kind of at a broader level, so it may be something that's located at the state level or, the county level or something of your organizations, then I'll spread my reach. All I did is stopped by the actual physical building that is the lodge.
And truth be told, they might have had everything you need in the basement. Or they might have had nothing
You're right.
at all.
They probably did.
But what we'll have to do is
we
to set
can't
up a
talk
strategy.
about basements in Franklin County.
Yeah.
Oh no.
We can't talk about basements there. Nope.
That's
no
right.
basements.
Oh dear.
Can't talk about it.
Thank
you though.
Wow, that's great.
I would say too, if you know
Okay,
people
you ready for me?
Oh, one last thing. I would say as well, if you know of family members that were in Masonry or other organizations, make sure you document that in your database, just in case you can't get the information right now. Someone who comes along later may be able to get that. And one of the names I sent James just now was my dad. I grew up with Freemasons. I knew my dad was one, my grandfather was one, my great-grandfather was one. I remember everything done at the funeral and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, that was just something I grew up with. But as Renate mentioned, she didn't know that. So once you get that information, make sure that it's documented somewhere, even if you can't get a hold of something from them in terms of history.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one thing that you'll find, especially like, and I recently published a paper on this called "Finding Our Fathers," which I'm more than happy to share with anybody who wants to read it. Thank you, True, thank you. Um,
I loved it.
the thing about it is that you end up finding, even if you can't find your particular ancestors, may not have been particularly prominent. You still get an idea of who they were around, what it was like. I have several case studies I've shown where I'm like, oh my God, I found this person was just like. I've had people come to me like, oh yeah, my grandfather. I like Denicia. I always use Denicia as an example. I talk about her in the
Mhm.
paper. She
Mhm.
comes to me with a letter from one ancestor to another who happened to be a senator, United States senator. It was on Grand Lodge letterhead. Come to find out, not only were these guys Masons, all their brothers were, and one of them was the Grand Master of Kansas. And there was this whole story about how he got shot, and the brothers went and they got the guy who shot him. And it's this whole story. You have to read the paper to get the whole story, but you find all kind of those kind of links there, but document it. Like you said, document everything.
Senator
And before
Bruce.
we leave
Yeah.
this,
Mhm.
topic, just based on what he just said, I want to mention that the Masons apparently also um, were instrumental in helping people to change their names after they perhaps committed a crime or killed a white man or something like that. And I do have an incidence of that on another line in my family. So that's another. I don't know that we would ever find records of it when we're looking for these people who we suspect have name changes, but my understanding is the Masons were often the ones that helped and assisted with moving people to a new location and helping them with the name change.
I was about
My
to say that's the secret handshake.
my
No,
official my
oh,
official
There
answer
sorry.
you
is
go.
I have no idea what you're talking about, ma'am. That's my official answer. I'm sticking to it.
And he's
I'm not
sticking to it.
I'm not
That's
getting
the
I'm not
secret
me and True
handshake.
we're not getting
I
suspended.
didn't say it.
Yeah.
We're not
So
getting
I feel
Sometimes,
like
sometimes you have to get up with somebody in good standing to get through get through the doors. So, it doesn't hurt either asking a sister or a brother to help you with those records also. So that it sounds like that's what Renate might have ran into
hmm
is because she just walked up in the house
hmm
alone without someone in standing. So,
Yeah, she's someone who
and
didn't.
that's always going to be a part of it too. So that's not you're not going to get away from that, you know.
Actually, true. With
Yeah.
that said, 'cause I feel like I kind of dominated this topic. Could you talk about it from because you're also a genealogist as well. Can you talk about this topic from a female standpoint and what differences or details may
being for
change from
Eastern
gender?
Star, or
Yeah, for Eastern
Mhm.
Star, just there anything
that's
female
probably another
sororities or
section.
Yeah, I'm kind of like learning too because one of Granddaddy Ike's daughter, Berta Ivory Goodlow, she started her own chapter. She's gone now. She's been gone for years, and I'm starting to learn all the intricacies about that. But from my perspective, we the Masons are kind of like over us. They're like our big brothers. So we don't do anything without them around or in them in the house. So I mean, there's a lot that we do in the community, if that's what you're talking about, James. But there's things that we do too, um, that a lot of people just don't know about. We're behind that as well. So.
absolutely. Well, no. What I was saying was about a lot of times if you find a Mason in a particular lodge, let's
Mhm.
say,
Mhm.
you might find his wife in the Eastern Star chapter in the same city,
That's
or his
very
daughter
true.
or sister or whatever. You'll find those kind of family links, and even if their last name isn't the same, you'll realize, oh, that was his sister-in-law. That
Hmm.
was this one's
Mhm.
cousin, and whatever. So it happens that way.
And
Okay,
you have to
well,
ask one to be one. So sometimes a lot of it with African Americans, it does come down through generational inheritance. You have a grandfather or father or grandmother or aunt. Someone's always there on your behalf. I mean, there's people that are stars that don't have it. They're starting their own tradition, but most of the time it's that I run into and that my sisters are there, it's because of someone else in their family. It's a generational.
okay. Let's bring in Shelly, because she's got the person we were talking about earlier on
Hey.
FaceTime.
No.
Okay. Y'all there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, say Mildred,
Hi.
can y'all
Hello?
hear?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can hear.
Hey.
Hey,
Okay,
Mildred.
go ahead. Y'all can hear each other. Wait a minute. Let me do something. Try to set my phone up.
Yeah, I know I can't hold the phone and turn.
Well, that's okay, because I'm going to have to go get my cord in a minute. So go ahead. I went through what was in the chat box. So Nika, I took her through what we had in there about the names, the prison, the hospital, the school. I also said put
Right.
a map up on the wall, ping each one of these
Yeah.
locations that she finds. And the 1900 census that Ellen had posted, my suggestion to her was not to discount that. That could be another wife prior
Mhm.
to the other
Right.
ones, because you don't have him, and we got a 10-year span here too. So that was another thing. What was said about the college campus?
Oh, that was me. That where he died was right next to Savannah State.
You got that, Mildred?
Oh, next to Savannah State. Okay.
Yeah. So you want to know, did he work
Okay.
there? What was any connection if they're in the same area of
Yeah.
Savannah State?
Yeah, far as I know is he was hermit type, and he lived in the woods, and he lived off the animals and the nuts
What?
and stuff in the woods.
Mildred, you never told me that.
He was a hermit. You know, he lived, even though they had a house, they said, this is what somebody told me, that he lived in the woods. So the hickory groves and stuff, he ate hickory nuts, hunted the animals and stuff that was in the woods, and stuff like that.
Okay, that's a Georgia man. Okay, now that's a Georgia man. So by you saying that, and then you saying you can't find him prior to 1910, you better
No.
check the mental hospitals again. Check the hospital. No, seriously, check the hospitals, but also find out, did he sell stuff? Find out if he paid taxes.
See what he did. As far as I know, is he worked on the log, worked for the, I guess, did tires.
Railroad.
Worked for the sawmill. Railroad, yeah. The rail tires. And what else? The railroad. Let me see, what else? Laborer. Just stuff like that down there. That's all I know. The biggest part I know is about the railroad work for them and cut down trees. Yeah.
Timber.
Logging.
Lumber.
Okay.
Logging in Georgia, as far as I know. I haven't heard anything about Denver or nothing.
So are any of his children's children alive?
Yes, women. Any of his children? Let me see. I think all the kids are dead. Let me see. I'm gonna think of who's alive.
So the grandchildren would be what, 70s or 80s?
Well, no, he got some. Woo, yeah, because there's one right now. Well, she's a niece. Let me see. Who is alive? I think all of Henry's kids are deceased.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from my father's side. I don't think it's too many. It's another one, right? One of my father's brothers. I guess they are in their 70s or something. Their kids.
Okay.
But they don't know anything.
I would
talking to them too.
Yeah, I would have conversation with them.
And also have them spit.
Yeah, and yes, DNA. If you can get one of them male lines to spit, as Nika said, take the DNA, because Ancestry on sale right now. There's always a sale.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that might be another option, is to have the DNA connect. But I would go ahead.
Okay, what about my brother's DNA? I've had that done.
Is that a direct line?
Yeah, my father's son.
So Henry Mitchell is linked to your father.
Right.
Okay, then your brothers could do it then.
Yeah, we've already done it. We're plugged into 23andMe and GenMatch and all these things. We don't have any badges that close.
Well, let me ask you another question. Do you think Henry Mitchell's parents were slaves?
I haven't heard anything about it. Nobody has ever said.
And they always have been in Georgia that you know of.
This is what he said, that his people from Upson County and around Atlanta and stuff like that. But I've been through all those daggone counties and I ain't seen hide nor hair
of them. So because see, Mitchell could become the name in 1870, right?
Right. Could be.
So search by the first name only in these little rural areas.
Okay.
And you know, what was his daddy's name? Saul
Mitchell, and supposedly, and his mother was Martha.
So search for Saul and Martha with no last name.
Okay.
And Ancestry does better than Family Search when you ain't got no surname.
Right.
And there was.
I come up with the Saul and the Martha, but the problem with the ones that I've found, there is no children there, and therefore I cannot connect them to anything.
Tell me what you need children for.
Say that, because I have his brothers. I'm looking for his brothers. It was Henry, Robert, John, Jack, and somebody, Charles Bivens. I even searched the Bivens as well. And I find a Bivens living near some Mitchells, which is one of the husband is a Saul, but they have no kids, but Tenzie Bivens. I checked those kids to see if they had to switch their name. It's almost a possibility that they may have went from Bivens to Mitchell.
Right. Remember, that was another thing we said earlier. Also check for Henry Bivens.
Yeah.
And you're saying he's been married 3 times, so
twice. I don't know.
2 times, and then Ellen found in 1900 there's a wife, Anna. They're black and they're in Thomasville. And so you're going to search that. And what am I missing? What about the newspapers or the Georgia archives, Vault Archive?
Yeah, you're talking about like the vault, that Georgia vault?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I had got the my grandmother's death certificate off of that site, and they stuff like that. But I haven't found anything on him. To say you'll find Henry Mitchell's or whatever, but you can't lock them into whether it's mine.
How do you know?
They just don't have it.
And the reason I'm saying that, not trying to be funny, but how do you know that's not them?
I know.
Because assume that they are until something tells you they're not. So that means you got to go track and follow and do the research on who you say is not, but assume that it is one by one until it tells you this is not them. Because if you can track one and hey, they marry somebody and they in some other town based on the 1910, 20, and 30 census, then you can start discounting them, but keep them close until you discount till you got something that proves that it's not them. Does that make sense, y'all?
Right.
I'm talking to you, the panel.
No, what you said definitely makes sense. I wanted to interject. Did you hear the advice I was giving earlier about the lodge?
Say that again.
Do you know if he belonged to any benevolent type society like the Masons or anything like that?
I don't know, but the only reason I think he had to be around those type of people because of certain information that was passed down that my father told me about history, black people, different countries and stuff. And I'm like, well, how do they know all of this? And so that's why he has to be, and he wasn't quote unquote educated or college that I know of. He could have been in college and then tuned out and became a hermit. But it was a lot of knowledge and information that they were privy to that my father passed down to me, that I'm wondering where did they get all this information from.
It's either going to be church or it's a society. One of the two. Yeah. Yeah, good one, James. Yeah, so search the Masons and the benevolent societies in Georgia, the Black Society. And there's also the Woodmen, the Black Woodmen, and I think they had a thing in Savannah. What's it called?
They're called the American Woodmen.
Yes, the American Woodmen is the Black Society, and they let women in their group. But anyway, the American Woodmen in Georgia or around the Savannah, and Savannah's got some good records. They, you know, you might need to take a trip to Savannah,
right,
and not rely so much online as much as making you a trip down. I don't know where you're at.
She's in Baltimore.
Oh, she's up there with you. Okay. Okay. You might need to plan you a trip.
Okay.
I can tell you a good bar to go to down there. There's a jazz club. Okay, Miss Nika, what am I missing? I think I went through everything that's on here.
Yeah, I think we broke her down pretty well.
I hit the stuff on the shrugs, family search, the archives, the hospitals, and check the census. Scroll over to the far right, see if any of those boxes are checked on any of the census. 1910, 1920, 1930. See if anything is checked over there. And I would look at the military too. In the newspaper, James posted a thing that said the Savannah Tribune was the official newspaper for the Prince Hall Masons.
Okay.
And that's in Savannah. But there's a lot of little secular stuff in Savannah also, black and white.
Oh, okay.
A lot of secular stuff. And I'm saying like Masons, you know, Savannah's different. It's different. You had the voodoo stuff happening up in Savannah, and you had the line, you know, Hilton Head in the Carolina, whichever one it is right there. Right. The big river's right there, you know, and
check. Here's another idea too, especially because you're dealing with Georgia. I say here's another idea. Check the HBCUs in that area. Even if your ancestor might not have been a student there, you still might pop up in the archive, because sometimes you don't end up having like papers or collections from particular towns, or you know, the mayor of some town, and your grandfather was
remember
your best friend.
Savannah State is there.
Yeah.
Savannah State is there.
Oh, Savannah State. Okay.
Yeah.
That.
Yep. HBCU is what he's talking about. Yeah.
HBCU. Okay.
Historically black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Black college.
Yep.
University.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I didn't look in it. I didn't look into any of those because they said they didn't have an education.
Don't matter. He might have worked.
Could have worked there.
And the other thing, do you have any connections there in Savannah? Any genealogists?
No, I don't have any No, I sure don't.
There's Hunter Army Airfield as well.
But Tony's in the not that far. She's in Charleston.
It's breaking up.
I didn't hear what True said.
I was
there?
just saying there was
I'm still here.
Hunter Army Airfield. The military is there.
Yeah, the 8th Air Force Museum and stuff is there too. Are you there, Mildred?
Yes. Hello?
Okay, we're here.
Hello? Okay.
We're still here. Okay.
Okay.
So she was saying to check the military. It's a big museum there, and what else, Drew?
The base is called Hunter Army Airfield, so they're
the airfield.
It's part of Fort Stewart. And
Okay,
yeah.
I know that. Okay.
But
And
Hunter
you,
is in
that's
Savannah, though. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
I think we're going to close with this one.
All right.
Oh,
Well, I hope that gives you some stuff, Mildred.
Oh yes, it did. I'm really, you got me thinking and rehashing some things. I really appreciate it.
Did y'all
glad
hear?
you.
You're muted,
Hello?
Angela.
Oh, do I
Oh no, there you go.
Okay, I was just saying, was glad that you could join us, and I see I'm shining here on the camera. Anyway, glad we were able to catch up with you. So that's good.
All right, dear. Keep in touch.
Oh, okay, thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take care. You can take the
All
camera.
right, everybody.
I
We
just watched
are going to wrap it up. There still is a pretty bad reverb.
Let me put myself on.
Interesting. When I was in Tallahassee, that was the weekend hangout.
I've never been there. I've always wanted to go.
Very
Yeah.
very historical.
I was stationed at Fort Stewart for 3 years, so Savannah and Jacksonville was kind of like our little runaways too, because Hinesville is so small and country that it was there, or going up to Atlanta, which is about 4 hours. So we were in a good spot. I learned a lot going to Beaufort, and I had a good time
South
there.
Carolina was right there. Hilton Head is right there.
And it was 6
Hilton
hours
Head
to
is
go
just
down
across
home
that river.
to Alabama as well. So I do miss my Georgia.
Well, she made a list of the stuff that I got out of the chat box, so she should be good to go for a while.
I'm
Nick,
glad.
you put those in the thingy thing, though, didn't you?
You're talking about all the links and everything? I can.
Are they in the Google
Yeah, I
page?
told her about the Savannah Tribune, went through all of the link stuff that was there.
I can copy and paste everything.
Angela,
chat,
did you
you
post
can-
that link for me?
No, I didn't. I'm glad you reminded me. I was on my phone and I have it right here. Hold on just a second so I can put it in there.
For some
Archive.
reason, Nika, I don't see the chat at all. I don't know if it's because I'm on my iPad Mini. I've searched around and tapped on everything, but I can't see the chat.
You have to go to the left, and there's like a little blue, the first tab that says chat, it's like a little blue message box with some lines in it that says that's where your chat is. And if you click that on, then you can see what we're saying as panelists on that right-hand side. If not,
The only thing I see over there is when people join. So I
I just
see
put that link
Shelley
up.
join, Angela join, I joined, and so on, but I don't see anything else.
she must be looking at it through the Facebook link. Are you looking at it from the Facebook link?
So.
That's why you can't see the chat box. Sorry, we're talking
I'm
now.
looking. No, Nika sent me another link because that was the only way I could get in to participate. The Facebook link just takes you like to the YouTube piece. I don't know, Nika. Should the link you sent me allow me to see the chat?
It should allow you to see the chat.
If you're using an iPad, because the Mac and iPad and the iPhone all looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
The icons.
I was gonna say I could do a screenshot, but then I don't have anywhere to put it. I don't know. We'll try to work on this so that by next time I can see it. When I've been on the laptop, I've been able to see it, but this is the first time I've done it on here and I don't see it. But I do have the blue lines, but they only just say who joined at what time.
Look at the bottom.
Uh-huh.
just check the bottom. And can you open your window up any bigger? Or, you know what I mean, scroll it over?
Yeah, because maybe it's hidden. Maybe you don't
Yeah,
have it
maybe
in
it's
view.
hidden.
Because it disappears when you don't like put your arrow. If you don't hover your arrow over it, sometimes he
Yeah,
just
that
kind of
whole
makes.
menu does. The
Yeah, he
whole
just
Mhm.
kind of goes
chat
into hiding.
tag.
You have to kind of hover over it for those little, the toolbox and the chat room to come in, and then once you hit the chat button, because sometimes I just hide that until I need to look over there for Nika
Yeah,
to
I'm
tell
not
me
seeing it
something.
at all, but I won't
Well,
take
we'll
up.
we'll 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 work it
Okay.
offline.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just before we get out of here, we are definitely looking for topics for next year, because this will be the last hangout we're going to have for the year, unless somebody else wants to do it.
So complicated for me.
Angela.
What?
Angela.
Yes, Miss Shelley.
Hi.
How are you? We will talk offline about that.
Okay.
Get her for one more.
Renata, I did post that link just now, and that is a great link because it's proceedings from, that's absolutely wonderful. It's from the Internet Archive, and it's proceedings
Yes.
from the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, 1881. I love that sort of thing.
And
Freeman.
that was where I found my people.
Wait, what was that you found?
Right. That's fantastic.
What was it you found?
There were
It's
some
that was
18
that
readings.
was the link where a few years ago I found out that I had ancestors that were Masons.
Wow. That's amazing. That's great. That's fantastic.
Oh.
I know that there are other benevolent society proceedings on that website as well. I have found things from the Royal Circle of Friends, from I'm trying to think of the Arkansas group, not the Mosaic Templars, but another group out of Arkansas. Just some amazing records from some of these societies, Knights and 12 Daughters of Tabor, all kinds of things. So really good stuff. So good site.
My great grandfather was American Woodman,
Okay.
and it's written in his obit from 1928, and he died in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Does
I
he
have
have a
not been
log
able to
for his
find.
headstone?
He doesn't have a headstone. He is buried in the Negro section, 1928, in the cemetery called Linwood in Fort Wayne, not too far from where the library is at. And there's over 60,000 graves. And
Wow.
they had a Negro section that you had to take a golf cart thing and go back. You know, it was way back up in the corner. And I found my great-grandmother's brother was there, and my grandparents had another baby that had died was there. And that first time we went to IBGS,
Yes.
I went
I'm not
to the
sure.
cemetery. You remember that? And over
Yeah.
60,000 graves.
Amazing. And he did
Yeah.
not get the log because American Woodman got the log, just like Woodman of the World. And
Yeah, there was just a little ping thing stuck in the ground. Yeah. Yeah. But he came out of Knoxville,
okay.
Knox County. So I want to find out, maybe he was connected from there before they moved to Fort Wayne. They left and got to Fort Wayne about 1916.
I almost feel like
1970.
I almost feel like a future session is gonna have to be on fraternal society.
Benevolent.
Yeah,
I would
that's
love
what
to be
that's why I
benevolent.
was asking about topics
Yeah,
before we went
Angela.
into this whole.
I would love that because I researched the Mosaic Templars of America, the Royal Circle of Friends, United. What is it?
Selling, I see it.
United Brothers of Friendship, Sisters of the Mysterious 10.
One of my favorites.
Oh, you like them? This UBF? Okay.
One
Okay.
of my
That's good.
one
I
of my
love the
favorites.
Mosaic Templars. That's my favorite group.
I have Mosaic Templar's official history in my bedroom.
Okay, great. Oh, wonderful. And the headquarters is in Little Rock, and I've been there a few times. So, um, and of course, I always look for Mosaic Templar headstones all over the country
Oh yeah.
because they were all over the country. So, fascinating. Yeah, that would be a good
I think
topic.
that'd be a great session.
It would be. It really would be.
Okay,
And
Nika, she just needs to set the date.
well, we'll talk about that in the future then. Yeah.
You got that presentation already done because I have sat through it. So say
Yes,
what you
ma'am.
want to say because I sat through it in Fort Wayne.
Yes,
Matter
you
of
did.
fact, that's how I learned about Uncle Cephas.
Uncle
In
Cephas.
2009. Yes. So she got
Same
the
with me.
presentation on the Benevolent Society.
Angela, I'd like to work with you on that. Maybe we could put something together. For a future
Absolutely,
day.
because you got the whole
Beautiful.
I give you the floor on that because that certainly is worthwhile and people need to know. And I sort of stumbled into this sort of accidentally with a couple of ancestors, and then started visiting cemeteries and went, whoa, wait a minute, these people had a social impact on the community, major impact, and we don't know
And
that.
you and Jen Baldwin and you had great conversations
Yes,
through the chat, the
yes,
Jen
and I
chat.
talk about that a lot. I think we did a Jen chat on that, and
You did. You did. I was following that. I think, True, you were on that one too.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the Benevolent Society and stuff, and I think Jen had some books and stuff she used as good references.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I was there that night.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Also, there's another good
Jen is
resource.
amazing.
I consider him sort of the Catholic version of James Morgan III, and that's
You talking about my good friend.
we adopted Jari when we were at IBGS
Yes.
in Fort Wayne, but he knows the Knights of Pythias, Knights of Peter Claver, and he knows a lot about their history. The Knights of Columbus only in like the last 5 or 6 decades admitted blacks. My father was a Knight of Columbus at the time he died, so he had some of those things that they do at the funeral as well. But he wasn't a lifelong knight.
He and I have, I don't mean to cut you off, but he and I have an ongoing competition because I'll find relatives of his in Masonic records, then he finds my in-laws and Knights of Peter Claver, so we have an ongoing competition.
Okay.
There you go. Miss Nika and all, my 6 o'clock comes early. I need to get off.
I've been trying to sign off for the last.
I'm already in the bed.
I'll see you tomorrow. Shelley, will I see you tomorrow? I'm gonna go over to Mertz and help her with Bernice tomorrow.
Yeah, and don't we have Nika and Bernice tomorrow and Angela tomorrow?
Yeah, I have Native American ancestry at 8 o'clock with Georgia Genealogical Society. I will send you all a link.
Please do.
Absolutely, yeah. And
that's 8 o'clock.
Mertz
at 9.
Myrtle is at 9, which is still 8 o'clock Central Time. That's with Bernice Bennett, and I'm also at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. For Back Away from the Computer, you'll have more fun and you'll find more offline with the Southern California Genealogical Society.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have both laptops up and the iPad up. I'm straight. I'll be able to entertain all 3 of you.
Exactly.
James, I put his name in there.
Yeah, join us when you can, James. That was good. You stopped over.
No problem.
Yeah.
In the chat box.
And I will be sure to add him to my circles. Everyone keep the suggestions coming for future topics for next year. Until then, have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been great having my
Bye.
sensitive.